Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Style by Veradoo. On this particular channel, I share sewing tutorials, fashion DIYs, and pattern drafting tutorials. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, this will be the best time for you to do that and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to be notified each time I upload a sewing tutorial. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your love and support. In this video, I'll be making this off-shoulder bubble dress with a waist cutout. So I'll be drafting only the back pattern for this particular tutorial because the front pattern I would like to cut it on my fabric. So I went ahead to mark out 1 inch for my zipper allowance, and I'll use my ruler to connect the lines together. So after doing that, I'll make sure all my measurements are taken after the zipper allowance, and then I'll go ahead to draft my basic bodice block. If you don't want to draft the basic bodice pattern, you can go ahead and place 4 inches above your starting point and mark your bust point. But here I'm marking the basic bodice block. I'll mark the bust point, under bust point, and the half cut. Then I'll go ahead and mark where I want the upper part of the dress to stop. The dress has a bubble effect at the hemline, so we are cutting the bubble separately. And since this is the back pattern, we'll be cutting it in form of a dress because the front part has a skirt. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm talking about. The front has 3 pieces. That's the half cut, the short skirt, on which we'll be attaching our bubble. So I'll go ahead and mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, and neck depth, which is 3 inches as well. Though we'll not be using this neck, I'm just drawing it for drawing sake. Then my shoulder measurement, my client's shoulder actually, is 15 divided by 2, which is 7.5. I went ahead to mark 1 inch from the shoulder to mark my shoulder slope. I'll also go ahead and mark a straight line to connect my bust point. Then my under bust, I'll do the same thing for my half cut and the full length of the dress at the back. So the full length of the back of this dress will be 26 inches because the full length of the whole dress is 35 inches. That is what my client wants. 35 inches minus 26 inches. That will give me 9 inches. So our bubble is going to be 9 inches long. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm talking about. So after taking my full body measurements, I went ahead to mark 3 inches above my client's bust point. That will give me the chest line. Then I'll go ahead and label all my lines: chest line, bust point, under bust, waistline, and then the extra inches, like the full length of the dress at the back. That is 26 inches long. So on the chest line, I went in by my client's shoulder measurements, divided into 2, and then I marked it out. I'll go ahead and connect it to my shoulder slope. I also divided my client's nipple to nipple measurement, and I'll go in on the midpoint of my pattern paper, that is after the zipper allowance, and I'll mark it out for the dart. I marked it on my bust point, under bust point, half cut, and then the full length of the dress. Then I came down from my bust point by 1 inch. On the dart leg, I'll mark half an inch on both sides. Sorry, 0.75 on both sides, and I'll connect it to that 1 inch I came down by. So on my bust point line, I'll go in by my client's bust measurement divided into 4 plus extra 1 inch for stitching allowance. I also mark her under bust measurements divided into 4. Her under bust and her waist measurements are actually the same. So I'll mark the same thing on the under bust and the same thing on the waist. I also measure the dart, which is about 1.5 inches, and mark it. I'll do the same thing on the waist and add another 1 inch for stitching allowance. Then on the full length of the dress, I'll mark her hip measurement divided into 4 plus 1 inch stitching allowance and the 1.5 inch for the dart. I'll go ahead and connect all the points with my French curve. We don't necessarily need the armhole for this dress because it's an off-shoulder dress, but I'll go ahead and create the armhole for those who don't know how to create an armhole. So I will measure my armhole and mark the midpoint, then I'll go in by half an inch. And then I'll use my French curve and connect the points together. From the shoulder slope to the midpoint where we marked, down to the chest line. And there we have our armhole. So in order to get the off-shoulder effect, I'll go up from the side of my chest line by half an inch, then I'll come down from the midpoint of my paper on my chest line by half an inch, and then I'll use my French curve and connect the points together. So to get rid of zipper bulge, I'll go up from the waistline by 1 inch and mark it out. Then I'll come down by half an inch and I'll join the both lines to the side of the waistline. There are actually two ways to mark this zipper bulge, and this is the first method. I'll teach you guys the second method as well, and I'll be using the second method. I'll go ahead and cut it out. But after that, I'll join it back and show you guys the second method. I shouldn't have cut it out in the first place, but that was my mistake. Sorry, guys. So this is what it will look like when you join it together. Can you see how snatched the zipper area looks? Then you go ahead and use your ruler to remark your dart, because after cutting out the waist dart, the darts no longer look straight. So you just go ahead and straighten them out. So this was me after I taped it back, and I'll show you guys the second method. For the second method, you come out from your waist line by half an inch. Then you use your ruler and connect to the other parts of your body. Like I'm doing, just pay attention to what I'm doing in the video. It's very simple. Then you go ahead and cut it out with with your scissors. Pay close attention to the parts I'm cutting now so you won't make any mistakes. I also want to cut out my darts on the paper because I don't want to mark it. I don't want to hold the darts on my dress. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out on the paper and cut it on the material at once. So this is what our back pattern looks like after cutting it out. So this is the fabric I'm using. I'm using a Mercado fabric and I have about 3 yards here. We also have our lining and our zipper and a matching thread. So for the front pattern, I'll cut it directly on the fabric because there is no need for the pattern drafting. So I placed 4 inches above the beginning of the fabric and then I marked my client's bust point, which is 11 inches, her under bust, which is 14 inches, and then her half cut 17 inches. I came up from her bust point by 3 inches. I went ahead to mark her bust measurement divided by 4 plus half an inch because the bust area is not supposed to be too tight due to the effect in front. So I also marked 1 inch for stitching allowance. I also marked her underbust divided by 4 plus 1 inch stitching allowance. Her underbust and waist measurements are almost the same thing. So I'll go ahead and connect all the points together. So at the top of the fabric, I'll go in by 6 inches and connect it to the chest line to get the armhole measurement. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out. So this part I'm cutting out, I left half an inch for stitching allowance because we have to cut out the under bust as well. If you look at the dress very well, it has a band in front. So we'll be cutting out our under bust point as well. Then the fabric that we have cut out is going to be used as the band. I don't know if you guys understand me. You understand better as we proceed. So this is what the front piece looks like, the upper part of the front piece. That's the bust area, and that's how we're going to create that effect, that gathered effect in front. I went ahead to cut out my back pattern on the fabric. I also cut out a skirt for the front part because the front part of this dress has a skirt and a band. So to get the skirt measurement, I will minus 17 inches, which is our half cut. So 35 inches minus 17, we have 18 inches. That means we are going to be cutting out 9 inches each, 9 inches for the skirt part and 9 inches for the bubble part. I don't know if you guys understand. But while cutting, make sure you leave extra allowances for stitching. So instead of cutting 9 inches, I'll cut out 11 inches. That is extra 2 inches for the stitching allowance. And for the width of the skirt, you will mark your waist measurement divided by 4 on the waist plus 1 inch stitching allowance. Then on the hem of the skirt, you mark your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch stitching allowance because the skirt is supposed to stop at the hip area. Then you go ahead and connect the both points together. And this is what our skirt part looks like. We are going to attach the bubble at the hem of the skirt. So to get the measurement for the bubble, you can divide your hip by 2 or by 3 depending on how full you want the bubble to look. My client's hip measurement is 41 inches, but the strip of fabric I'll be using is 120 inches wide. So when I gather it, it will give me a very full effect. Then for the length, I'll be using 9 inches plus extra 2 inches for stitching allowance. So I'll be cutting 11 inches. Please guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly do that and turn on your notification bell so you won't miss any of my tutorials. And kindly like my videos, share with your friends and loved ones. Also drop a comment for me, I'd love to read from you guys. So as you can see, the length of the bubble I'll be using is 11 inches because my lining is supposed to be 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. After stitching them together, the main fabric will fold by 2 inches and give me the exact 9 inches I need. Went ahead to cut out lining pieces for each of these fabrics. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll take my front piece, I'll place it right sides facing each other with the lining, then I'll go ahead and turn my neckline and the sides. I'll do the same thing for the back piece. I'll turn the neckline and the sides of the pieces because I don't want rough edges since I don't have a serger. This is what it looks like after I turned it and ironed it. You can see that all the rough edges are now inside the fabric. So to get that effect in front, that cutout, I'll fold my front piece into two and I'll go in from the midpoint by 3 inches on fold. That is when you open it, it will give you 6 inches. So I'll take it to the machine and I'll turn that part inside. I don't know if you guys understand. I'll fold it in just the 6 inches I marked for the cutout. Then I'll go ahead and place my band and stitch it, but I won't be stitching that 6 inches. I'll stitch only the other sides of the band and the main fabric. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. I'll place the front piece in between the two bands and then I'll take it to the machine and stitch, leaving the 6 inches I marked. So this is the front piece after stitching it. I'm sure you guys can see what I was telling you guys. I stitched the other sides, leaving the midpoint where I marked the 6 inches. So after gathering it up, it will give me that cutout effect in front. I also did the same thing for my back part. I turned the necklines, the other sides, and then I also joined the zipper allowance with a temporary stitch. So for the front part, I'm trying to illustrate what it will look like after holding it to the band in front. This is what it will look like at the bust area after we stitch it out with the band. So to attach our skirt piece, it's either we place it right sides facing each other with the upper part and stitch it, or since it has a lining and I want to put all the rough edges inside, this is how I'm going to attach it. I'll place the main piece of the skirt right sides facing each other with the main piece of the upper part. Then I'll hold just the band and the skirt and stitch it. Then I'll also turn it to the inner part and hold the both linings together. I don't know if you guys understand. So this is what it looks like after stitching it. If you don't understand, you can pause the video and replay it. This is what it looks like on the inner part. You can see that there are no rough edges. I do this because I don't have a serger and I can't keep going to the market all the time to serge. So this is how I'm going to also turn the skirt part so that the rough edges will be inside. I'll place it right sides facing each other with the upper part in between the skirt parts, and I'll stitch the both sides together. And this is what the skirt part also looks like. You can see how clean it looks. There are no rough edges at all. So what I'm going to do next is I'll place the back piece on the front piece and I'll take it to the machine and stitch them together. So this is what the upper part of the dress looks like after stitching them together. I also went ahead to attach the band on the upper part of our dress. Since I already illustrated how to attach the band, there is no point doing it on camera. I don't want the video to be too long. So in order to attach my bubble, I measured round the hem of the dress and that gave me 20.5 inches. That is 41 inches in total for my client's hip. So I gathered my bubble to be 42 inches long. That is 41 inches for my client's waist and 1 inch for stitching allowance. I also went ahead to cut out a lining piece for the bubble, which is 42 inches, and I attached it to the bubble. And this is what it looks like. So I also went ahead to cut out my sleeves. In order to get the measurement, I placed my tape on my client's underbust, which is 14 inches, and I got the extra inches above the chest line. Just look at what I'm doing in the video. I measured the extra inches and that gave me 6 inches. So my sleeve is going to be 12 inches long, but I cut out 14 inches, the extra 2 inches for the stitching allowance. I cut it on fold and I went ahead to hem the down parts. So in order to attach the sleeve, I went out from the midpoint of my client's bust by 6 inches, and that's where I'll be attaching the sleeve. From the midpoint, I marked 6 inches. I'll do the same thing for the other sleeve as well. So this is how you'll be attaching the sleeve. You take it to the machine and gather it around that point. Just pay close attention to what I'm doing in the video. You pleat it around that point. Then you turn it over to the back like this and do the exact same thing for the back part. You go out from the seam area by 1 inch at the back before attaching your sleeve. In order to give space for your arm. So this is what the sleeve looks like after I pinned it together. I don't know if you guys understood what I did. Then you do the same thing for the other side. After attaching the sleeves, go ahead and attach your zipper as well. In order to attach your bubble, you can fold it into two and get the midpoint. Do the same thing for the upper part of the dress. Fold it into two from the zipper area and get the midpoints in front. Then take your bubble and place it right sides facing each other with the midpoint of the dress and the midpoint of the bubble. You can go ahead and hold it with your pins to secure it together. If you watched up to this point and you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends and loved ones, comment your thoughts in the comment section, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. And also turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to be notified whenever I upload a new tutorial. This is what the dress looks like after pinning it. I did that off camera because the video is already too long. After stitching the dress round, you hold the bubble, the two ends of the bubble, and stitch it as well. So guys, I'll do that off camera and I'll show you the outcome of our dress. And this is what our dress looks like. Ignore the fold. I had to hold it at the back because my client is bigger than the mannequin. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.